Owain, wonderful. Thank you very much. He's going to bring us our second reading. After that, I'm going to give Sue the microphone.
John chapter 17, verses 20 to 23. Jesus prays for all the believers. My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be at one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory that you gave me, that may be one as we are one. I in them and you in me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you sent me and have loved them, even as you have loved me. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Thank you very much. Yes, do come up here.
Thank you.
Lovely to greet you. You've got a number of goodies as well. Where have you come from, Sue, just so we know? Tell us a fraction about yourself before I hand over.
So I come from East Peckham in Kent, and my church is St Andrew's in Paddock Wood. And my role in the diocese is to chair the link between the Diocese of Rochester and the Diocese of Kondoa in Tanzania. And within that, we have lots of other parishes, including yours, that are linked with parishes in Kondoa.
We're very grateful for you. All you do. Here we go. There's the clicker. It does work.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your welcome. I feel very at home here because some of you may know we have a meeting here every year where we all get together, all the people that love Kondoa. And so this feels quite homely to me. So thank you very much for your welcome. It's nice to meet you. I'm going to tell you about a visit that we made only 2 months ago, and we went to see Chemba. But I brought a selection. One of the things that is always overwhelming when we go to parishes in Kondoa is the just incredible love and generosity of the people. And we bring gifts with us and return with more than I can even describe, really, because we come back with some physical gifts. I remember one service, a man came up. He was clearly very poor. He clearly only had the clothes that he was wearing. That was all he had. And he gave me this dirty little note, 5,000 shilling note, 5,000 Tanzanian shillings. And I wanted to weep because that was all he had that he gave to me. And I had to accept it because it was given to me with generosity and love, and he was so encouraged by the fact that we'd come to see him. He wanted to repay in some way. But it's beyond words, really, the generosity that we receive. But some of the things I just thought I'd bring and share. And the kids might like to, I don't know, we can pass them around, pass them back to the kids, really. What? They're not even, they're playing. Are you over there? What do you think this is? Yeah. We had to bring an extra suitcase back. We had 6 of these. There were 6 of us, and we had 1 each. This was jokingly, our driver called it a manual grinder. So anyway, I'll pass this round. Shall I start here? It's quite heavy. I'll pass over here. Just pass it round. I think this one's obvious. This was a gift. We all wore our hats. Mine got a bit crunched up in the suitcase.
That's some water used for crushing stuff.
Right? Yeah.
This is a hat.
Yeah, that's great. Suits you. There you go. Keep going, man. Okay. So, I'm going to just teach you one Swahili word. I can teach you a few, but I'm going to teach you one. It's not going to be difficult, I promise. Okay, so I'm going to say, and in conversation in Chemba, you will hear this littered through the conversation at the beginning, the end, as people are chattering. I'm going to say, Bwana asifiwe. And what I'm telling you is, the Lord be praised. And you have to reply to me this Swahili word, okay? You ready? Got to concentrate. Amen. Okay. Okay. So I go, Bwana sifiwe. Amen. And all the way through every conversation, Bwana sifiwe. Always, always, always. Okay, that's just a common. Swahili is actually a great language to learn. So the word for God is Mungu, Mungu, and the word for Jesus is Yesu. So sometimes it might be Bwana Yesu asifiwe, the Lord Jesus be praised. So I just want to talk about, this is a little bit of praise going on. So that church is the church that you sent funds to build. So I hope you feel really pleased to see it up and running and alive. I just want to talk a little bit about friendships. The readings we had were about Jesus before he was arrested and before he was crucified, his prayer to God for us, for people that would believe in him over the coming decades and millennia, that we would be one, that we would come together, we would encourage each other and support each other so that people may know that Jesus is the Lord, that he is King, that we would identify ourselves as a combined group of people that love each other. And your relationship with Chemba, actually, it started in 2006. So it's one of the first 3 parishes to be linked in the diocese. There were 3 in 2006. So it's been going now for 18 years. And the thing about these relationships is that they are long-term. This is not supporting a missionary society, sending a bit of money for something and then feeling quite nice because you've sent some money. This is about a relationship. And all relationships have problems. You know, they're difficult. Sometimes you have periods when things aren't getting on so well, but you just work through. We're in this for the long term, this relationship, this friendship that your church has with your brothers and sisters in Chemba. And really, you know, the readings that we had today, I think, were just perfect because they just describe how all the instructions that we have throughout the Bible are about how we're stronger together, how our love for each other builds God's kingdom, and how showing love for each other encourages each other. And one of the things that if you talk to people in Chemba, they will say, whilst they're very clearly very grateful for your financial support because they are poor, the thing that means the most to them is you travelling all the way from the UK to come and see them. They cannot believe that people who are as poor as they are justify somebody coming from so far away to see them. Their hearts burst with the sense that they are loved and that they are known, that they are recognised, that people want to come and see them. And we leave with so much. Do you know what? Sometimes you don't have words to describe when you've been near to God. And if you go there, God is moving. They don't have very much at all, so there's not very much between them and God. They're utterly dependent on God. And you just breathe that. The conversations, everything. You come away with your faith built, you're inspired, and you will want to go back, I promise you. You'll be exhausted because there's always a very tiring itinerary, but you will be inspired by their closeness to God. And so, one of the things I'm going to be doing in this short speech is really to encourage you to go and see your friends. So I'm going to ask the children at the back if can somebody talk to me about what a friend is? Who wants to tell me about having a friend? They like to play with friends. They like to spend time with their friends. That's good.
They've always got back.
Yeah. Can I actually say something just to bring us down to earth a bit? Do we always like our friends? It's not always easy to maintain a long-term friendship. There are times when things don't go completely according to plan. But if we stay with it, and it's the same in a marriage, you know, we get the benefits of it over the longer term. So this is very much a long-term friendship. Great. Thank you, children. So the 6 of us went out in April from the diocese, and we were led by Christine Allen, who links Rochester. She oversees the links between Rochester and the other 3 dioceses that it's linked with around the world. And then all the names there. You might recognise some of them. That was me doing the selfie, so you've got the top of my head at the beginning of the photo there. So we set off from Kilimanjaro Airport, and within 5 minutes we had to stop the car because there was just the most incredible view. And I have to just show you this picture. Christine kept going, I can't believe I took this. Look at the picture I took. So she just stuck the camera out of the window, and that is the picture she had of Mount Kilimanjaro. Tanzania is a stunning country. Actually, Africa's a stunning continent. But, yeah. So this is a question for the children. Sorry, whoever's got.
Crystal's got a microphone, so.
Oh, okay. Children, can you have a look at the map on the wall? Are they looking?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
They are looking. Can you see where it says Tanzania?
Oh, yeah.
It's near the equator, which is the middle of the world, nearest to the sun. So what do you think the weather's like there?
What's the weather like near the sun? What's the weather like?
Really hot.
Yeah. Generally it is really hot, but this time we went in April, and I've never been in April before. April is the rainy season. And I was surprised to find a Tanzania that instead of being dry and brown was lush and green and flowers everywhere. So this is us when we arrived. You can't hear the rain very well, but
Welcome, please. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's hot a little bit. Yeah, cheers.
So that's the hot, dry country that we went to in April. It was a bit of a surprise. And of course, because the roads aren't well built, they're generally tracks. A lot of them had collapsed with the rain. Some of the bridges, there was one village we went to where the middle of the bridge had fallen into the river. So we drove out over the first part of the bridge, and then where the bridge had fallen, we drove down into the river and then up the other side and out, which was kind of okay on the way to the village, but on the way back it was dark and the skies had opened. And we got down into the river, and the vehicle was going, trying to get up the other side again. And we'd been chatting, and that suddenly we all went quiet, and I know we were all just praying at that point that we'd get up and over and out the other side. So it was difficult to get around on this occasion, and that was something that I learned. This is our itinerary. I'm not going to go through it all. That's the vehicle we drove around in. It fits 7 people in. It's got a charger, so if you need electricity, you've got it there. And we stayed in this hostel here, the Mothers Union Hostel. But the thing to note there is that Chemba was our very first visit. We arrived on the Tuesday, and the first village we went to was Chemba on the Wednesday morning. Now, because it's raining, most people are out in their farms. They're looking after their farms because this is the time when the crops grow. So we didn't have a full church. It was Wednesday anyway. I'm sure they would have all been there on Sunday, but we still had a very good welcome from people in Chemba. I just want to quickly mention this. We visited 11 parishes. We drove 1,724 miles, so we were up at the crack of dawn. Down. It was very, very exhausting, actually. 15 church services, and when I say a church service, they're generally about 3 hours long. Lots of worshipping, dancing, fantastic, actually. The 3 hours goes in no time at all. Too much food. We'd arrive, we would be fed. We'd leave, we would be fed. Then we'd go to the next church, we'd be fed. And then we'd leave, we'd be fed. And, we just fed all the time. And many, many baptisms that seemed to grow during the service. So we'd arrive and the pastor would say, you've got 1 baptism. We'd say, fine. And then they'd say, he'd whisper, he'd say, no, you've got 3. He'd say, oh, okay, so I'll pass it on to the vicar. And then he'd whisper again and say, no, there's 7. So they just seemed to grow during the service. But we didn't even count how many baptisms. But the really interesting thing is that the diocese is doing a grant application and they need a map of the diocese. And there isn't one, nothing exists. So what we did was, Keith, who's in our group, we put location data on our phones and we were able to track everywhere we went, and we're gradually building up a map of the diocese. So we're really proud of that, and the bishop's really pleased with that. And gradually, as people visit and they send pictures back, we can pick up the location data from the pictures and get this map built up so that there is one map of the diocese in existence. So when we arrived, we passed through Arusha, which is a major city in the north of Tanzania, and we went to this place that provides occupation for people who are blind and deaf. And I took a picture of this sign because I just think it says it all. Kindness is a language which blind people see and deaf people hear. And they use recycled oil, they get bottles and they crush them, and they use the crushed bottles to make beads and to make glasses and jugs out of glass. It's incredible what they do. And then they make bags out of newspapers and they give you your presents in the bags. And I thought I'd pass this round so you can see how clever they are. So as I mentioned, Chemba was our first parish visit. This is us getting out of the vehicle and going to the church. You can see the bishop there. You saw him dancing earlier. Well, I don't think in this country you're ever going to see a dancing bishop, sadly. You'll see many dancing bishops and clergy and all sorts in Tanzania, because it is impossible to worship without moving. It's just not possible. They can't understand, really. We just stand there sometimes and sing, and they look at us and think, well, why are you just standing there? So, yeah. So Chemba, the village that you linked with in 2006, has now become its own civic district. So the government is investing in Chemba, and Kondoa Diocese now covers the Kondoa district and the Chemba district. And your church is called St. James, and it's a very large church. There's only one tarmac road in the diocese. It goes from the north to the south. And in fact, that road is being built, and it goes from Cairo down to Cape Town. It's like the north-south main road through the whole of Africa. And it goes through Chemba, and your church has got a very prominent position on that road. And this map, can you see in the top left there? Can you see your church? So I got this from Google Maps. It's a satellite image. But a lot of that area is actually owned by the diocese. So they're using some of the other land to build a secondary school and a conference centre to raise money so that the diocese can have an income. I'll talk to you just very quickly about that later on. And there's something here. I gave you a clue earlier, but I don't know whether... Can the children work out what those stones say at the side of the church? Yeah, who said that? Somebody gave it away. Yeah, it does. I don't know. It says St. James. So they've actually written the name of their church in stone on the side. All these little things that just show they love their church. So the leadership team, you used to have Tito Ndalu. He's now gone to the diocese. He's teaching in the Bible college. We did meet Tito, and I've got some pictures of him. But this is your pastor now. His name is Andrea Mwaluku, and Mwaluku actually is the root of that word is angel. And Andrea, we know what Andrea means. And Anna is his wife, and this is their catechist, Isaiah Guabu. And they made us very welcome, as I explained earlier. Everywhere we went, we were welcomed with food and drink, which had all been cooked over an open fire since daylight, and then stored in these containers, which are kind of thermal. And then the bishop took us on a tour of the whole area, which is massive, so there's a lot of walking around. And we looked at the new school buildings. Then we had a church service, and then we were fed again. Before we left, and we had 2 more churches that day, so that's just 6 meals before we'd even count our breakfast and our supper when we got back again. Sometimes we were saying to the bishop, please don't cook for us when we get back, because we haven't got any more space for food. So I'm going to show you some videos. This choir is one of the choirs at your church in Chemba. It's called Tumaini, and Tumaini means hope in Kiswahili. So you could say this choir is called Hope Choir. You can do this dance. It's not difficult. I'll stop there. It's difficult to explain the volume, actually. There's a huge volume. The voices, they're like operatic. They kind of fill the space. So it's fantastic. So I've got one more choir to show you. I could show you more, but I think I've only got 20 minutes. I mean, I was actually asked if I could slightly channel Bishop Gibbon, who's an amazing charismatic bishop. But I'm not going to channel all of him because he takes at least an hour when he preaches. Okay, so yeah, it's fantastic. And when I talk about 3-hour services, you might think, oh, I couldn't take that. But I can promise you it would go in a flash because there's so much singing and dancing and worship and you're just caught up in it. It's absolutely wonderful. So I just wanted to talk a bit because your church sent funds for a roof of a building just outside the church entrance, in fact, that was to be used by Compassion in Tanzania. And it's still empty. So I was trying to find out what's happened, and I've done a bit of research since I last spoke to Carl as well. And it seems that what's happened is that Compassion, after the Kondoa diocese roofed the church with your funds, then decided that they would work entirely with a US Pentecostal church who built a whole facility somewhere else in Chemba for them. So these things happen. But your church family in Chemba are now considering how they can use this building. They want to use it for children. That was its original purpose. So they want to find a purpose for it for children in the diocese. But the roof's beautiful. It's just on a building that's empty at the moment, which isn't great. I want to talk to you about this man who, as far as I'm concerned, is a legend. I have heard about him. I've never met him. And somebody came up to me and said, oh, this is Reverend Tuna. I went, oh, hello. And I shook his hand. And suddenly, like the penny drops. I think, oh, you. This man, 50 years ago, used to come on his own and sit under a tree, and he just prayed by himself. There was no church family. There were no Christians in Chemba. It was a Muslim area. He just sat under a tree and he prayed. And after a while, I don't know how long, maybe months, somebody came and joined him and prayed with him. And then after a while, more people came. And then the church family started. There were more. They were worshipping under the tree. And then your partnership came and they built the church. And you can see how this one man, his faith, he just sat under the tree every day at the same time and prayed. And he is an absolute hero, absolute hero. He's wearing a bobble hat. We bought somebody knitted like a bucket load of bobble hats, and we were handing them out everywhere, and they loved them, and he loved his bobble hats. But that man is an absolute hero, and if you ever sometimes wonder whether what you're doing is enough, as long as it's done in faith, and he just quietly just prayed. Wonderful man. So a little bit about what is happening on the rest of the church land. So the bishop's got grand plans. There's a building that is nearly, there's lots of different buildings on the land. You saw some of them on that satellite image. There's a secondary school there that's going to open in September. They're just in the process of building a chemistry, biology and physics lab, toilet blocks and sewerage, and that's being partly funded by the Diocese of East Tennessee that also has a link with Kondoa, and partly by Trinity Wall Street, which is an American grant-making church, very faithful church. They make grants as well. But what they need is an office for the school, and the office is currently old buildings that were used by World Vision, and they moved out. And then when your pastor came to the church, he's been living in those offices, but now they want the offices for the school. So what they're saying to us is that, could we consider supporting the construction of a new house for the pastor? That costs about £10,000 generally. We've built pastors' houses in other parts of the diocese, and they tend to cost about £10,000. This is just from the tour that we had around. You can see these are all bed frames all piled up for the dormitory. They're kind of nearly ready to go, but not quite. So we're quite excited to see how that goes. And the other thing that's happening in Chemba is CCMP. So I think some of you will know the Christian Charity Tier Fund. They have this project where they go into communities and they teach people about the Bible, and they teach people that God gave us enough and that there is enough. And they teach people about hope and how the Bible gives them hope. And so this project is being funded by St James in Tunbridge Wells, and they're currently working in, I think it's 13 parishes in Kondoa, and Chemba is one of them. And they sit down and they teach the church family about, they say to them, what have you got? What has God given you? How can we grow this? And they also ran, as you can see there, a campaign last month, actually 2 months ago, May, on environmental care. And so the church family went out and they swept the grounds in the primary school, and they swept the grounds outside the health centre. And I think that's a wonderful witness, isn't it? They just went out and showed God's love to their community. So this is Tito. I wanted to say a little bit about Tito because he was your pastor for a long while. He's a lovely, gentle Christian man, really sincere. He's one of those people that when you're with him, you just think, I can feel the presence of God in you. And that's him. So the top left picture, you can see the bishop in his purple, and Tito is on the right. He used to be quite skinny, so I think he's been eating quite well while he's been in the diocese. And his wife, this is a Mothers' Union choir, because while we were there was a service for women, and it was everything led by women. But his wife is in the. I'm going to click, and it will go into a video. But the front row of the women dancing, she's the one on the left with her hair tied back in a ponytail. So, yeah. So that's Mary, his wife. And so we met Tito and we met Mary, and we had a chat. So just on a practical level, you've been really generous financially with your sister church in Chemba, and I just wanted to just let you know how your funds have been used over the years. So every year you send £1,000, you send £650 to cover the salary of the pastor, and £350 for Chemba to give to the diocese as its kind of contribution, because it doesn't have any of its own income to help fund the diocese, and the diocese itself is poor as well. And then also you've sent funds for Tito, because at one stage we were hoping that Tito would come over here to have some theological education. I don't know whether, so I'm not sure, but he's, you've funded an English course for him, and his English he's actually struggled with English, I would say, but while I was there, we were able to converse in English. And I struggle. I have a bit of Swahili, and we send each other messages in English and Swahili, a bit of a mixture, really. And so I think he's coming on. But whether his English is good enough to study theology in the UK it's another level, really. there was one year when Tito was moving out and Andrea was moving in, and you paid for 2 pastors' salaries. There was another occasion 3 years ago when the church received a bill for £400 for 450 pounds for 7 years backdated land tax, and the pastor was going to be put in prison, and it was all got very dodgy. So anyway, I think you helped very kindly with paying that backdated bill, and then the Compassion building. So that's a little report back on the funds that your church has sent. Really just to say, that's me with Anna and Andrea, but I think if you wanted to think about what to do next, on a practical kind of financial level, if you wanted to do something, I think they would be enormously encouraged if you would help with the funding for the house, for the pastor, the new house. And they would get on with that quite quickly. They might even get it done before November, because they would want him out quickly, and they'd want him in his new home before the rains come in November, and you've seen what the rains are like. So they need a weatherproof house for that. And the other thing that I want to suggest is that you visit, because mainly it was Chris and Eric visiting, which is wonderful. But I would really encourage more people from this church family to go. Seriously encourage it, because it will inspire you, and you will come back and you will inspire other people here. And more than anything, you will encourage and inspire the Christians in Chemba who are worshipping in such hard circumstances. And I promise you that if you go, you will never forget it. It will be a life-changing experience. When you've got that close to people who know God so closely, it touches your heart. You can't let go of it. It shifts you. It shifts you up a level in your own faith. And I would really, really encourage it. It generally costs about £1,500 per person, all the costs in, with the accommodation and the flights and the travel. And we go to the game parks afterwards, just to relax, really. And anyway, go and see Tanzania's fantastic animals. So they have started work. They've got some blocks. They've got together and they've bought the blocks for the new house. So they've got some of the work done themselves, but they can't. It would take a long, long time for them to be able to finish that, and that's where you could genuinely help. As I mentioned earlier, you are friends, you're family. This is a long-term relationship. And with friends and family, you keep in touch by, as Carl was saying earlier, saying to somebody, can I pray for you? You visit each other. You don't have friends that you just send money to. I don't think any of us have friends that we just send money to. We spend time with them. We get to know them. We understand what their needs are. We share our troubles with them as well, and they pray for us. WhatsApp has been a lifesaver. So if anybody's good at WhatsApp and wants to be that communicator, you can communicate with Andrea really well. Obviously, we support projects because materially we're so much better off than they are. But really, it's about building trust. Friendship is about trusting each other and going through the thick and the thin. And so I think probably if I said anything, I would say, just go, Nenda, go, Nendani, go to Chemba, go and see them, go meet your friends there. We're building, together with them, we are building God's kingdom here on earth. That's what we're doing. Jesus prayed that we would be as one, not just here, but his church. We can't, it's overwhelming if we try and build relationships with we can't do it, but we can build one relationship. And if every church built one relationship, we could, make a huge, huge difference in the kingdom. And Paul wrote that we should encourage one another. Well, they encourage us. I hope you've picked up a little bit of how encouraged I always am when I talk about them and are reminded about them. But I can assure you that we greatly encourage them. Right, so I've got one story. I wasn't sure whether to say it or not, but I think I will tell you it. And it's just about the love that they have for us as well as we have for them. So my church is linked with a parish called Barreco, and like Tito, the pastor was moved on, and his name was Richard Suki, and we'd got to know him. We'd become friends. We chatted. We'd met with him. We sat at his kitchen table and cried with him over sadnesses in his family. And he moved to another village. And last year, my brother died, And he and his wife had been praying for my family. They knew he'd been poorly. And when I told him that Bob had died, he said to me, Ava, his wife, he said, Ava is crying for your mother. And that was, I had so many messages, but just to be told she is crying for your mother. So when we went to Maziwa, because we went to all the villages that were linked, and he is linked with the church in Pembury, his church, he called me to the front and he gave me the most huge jar of honey. When I got home, I weighed it. It was 2.2 kilos. It was actually illegal for me to bring it back, but I didn't know at the time. I wrapped it in so many things in my luggage. And he said, please give this to your mother with our love. Now, from people who are so poor that they're thinking about where their next meal is coming from, he gave me 2.2 kilos of honey for my mother. He could have given me a little jar, and I would have been overwhelmed that he'd remembered me. But he gave me 2.2 kilos. And I see that as extravagant love. I see that as God's love. And when you go there, you feel that. Now, there's a little bit of a funny side to the story in that my mum has got diabetes, but I didn't like to tell you that. However, I did take a picture of my mum with the jar, and she's delighted with it. But she then said, no, I'll just have a little bit. So I've given her a little jar. And so what I'm doing is I'm dedicating this honey to any mother who's lost a child. And I've got 2 little jars here, and I can bring more if anybody wants more. And as I go around giving feedback to all the churches, because this is extravagant love from people who love us deeper than we can understand. And to me, it represents God's love. And so I think we're going to nearly finish. This is the local tribe in Chemba are the Wabarungi, and this is the Ubarungi tribe. So it's a tribe singing their local music. It's I love it. I don't know what you'll think of it. It's very much in a minor key, lots of harmonies, but this is their local music.
Ni wimbo wa sadaka, mzee yote kama yupo basi ya West na nicho.
So I don't know what you think. We did go to 2 game parks. We always do. There's 2 game parks that are particularly on the route back to the airport. But I have to say, because the grass was so long, the only animals we could see were the giraffes and the elephants. We knew the lions were there. We knew all the other animals were there, but they were all hiding in the undergrowth. So it wasn't the most fruitful visit to a game park. So I would suggest that if you go later in the year when it's a bit dry and you can have a chance of seeing all the fantastic animals in the game park. And so I'm going to end on that, really. That's just an amazing sunset. I think you get some incredible sunsets out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Sue, thank you very, very much indeed. If anyone's been thinking, I'd love to be slightly involved, there's a mission task group that meets every few months as part of our church where we try and keep in contact and we organise the church or try and develop links like this. So please let me encourage you. If your heart's been going, it's an hour every few months, we'd love you to be involved if you possibly could. If you've been touched by anything, and particularly about the idea of helping with the pastor's house, do talk to David and Julie over at the back right, who would be very glad to take any support, which we will send out as a church. And hear that inspiration in so many ways. What we're going to do is there's a song there that I've got from a friend in South Africa, but we're not going to play it just for time. I'd love to invite the Bees and Epic to come and lead us in prayer, please. Who's going to be leading us in prayer?